Welcome to week number 2 of CMP 375 class Human Computer Interaction. Guys, this week we are going to cover three main domains in under the HCI. One is cognitive aspects, the another is social interaction and emotional interaction. So let's talk about the cognitive aspect to begin with. So in this section we are going to learn about what is cognition, and we'll also be able to describe how cognition has been applied to the interaction design, and then we'll also talk a little bit about the mental models and the theories of cognition. So what is a cognition process? It's a process in which sensory input is transferred, reduced, elaborated, stored, and recovered, and later on used. So, cognition is a faculty for the processing of information, applying knowledge, and changing preferences. It is important to note that many of these cognitive processes are interdependent. Several may be involved for a given activity. It is rare for one to occur in isolation. For example, when you try to learn material for an exam, you need to attend to the material, perceive and recognize it, read it, think about it, and try to remember it. Most relevant for interaction design are attention and memory, which will be described in detail later. So attention, selecting things to concentrate on a point in time. It also allows us to focus on information which is relevant, and it also involves in audio and visual senses together. And the information at the interface should be structured to capture user attention. For example, perceptual boundaries, windows and colors, reverse video, sound and flashing, all comes under the attention of attention. So design implication for attention is to make information silent when it needs attending, avoid cluttering the interface with too much information, and avoid using too much because the software allows it. Now look at it. What is wrong with this picture? It's an example of overuse of graphics, which will not allow the user to be able to focus on it. So what perception has to do with it? Perception is important because how information is acquired from the world and transformed into experiences. So it has an obvious implications to the design, representations that are readily perceivable. So text should be legible, icons should be easy to distinguish and read. So which is easiest to read and why? Isn't that obvious? Now Design implications: the icons should enable user to readily distinguish their meanings. Bordering and spacing are effective visual. They should be able to distinguish. They should be able to be distinguishable. And speech output should enable the user to distinguish between the set of spoken words. Text should be legible, and tactile feedback should also allow users to recognize and distinguish different meanings. So folks, now look at it. Memory, which is another very important aspect of cognition process. It involves first encoding and retrieving the knowledge. We don't remember everything, so we need to involve filtering and processing what is attended to. Then context is very important, where and when. And we recognize the things much better than being able to recall them. It is important to have an understanding what is the difference between recognition versus recall. Command-based interfaces require users, for example, to recall from memory a name from thousands of commands or hundreds of commands, whereas in GUI provides visual-based option that user needs only browse through until they recognize it. Some of the implications we must be aware as a designers of human-computer interaction. Don't overload user memories with complicated procedures. Design interfaces that promote recognition than the recall, because recall takes a lot of time, and sometimes people are good with recalling, they are not. Then provide users with various ways of encoding information to help them, like categorize them, color, flags, tagging, time stamping, all will help. Some more design implications: speech-based menus and instructions should be short, accentuate the intonation of artificially generated speech voice. Sometimes they are harder to understand than human voice, and provide opportunity for making text large on the screen. In addition, provide information functions for users who wish to understand more about how to carry out an activity more effectively, like wizards. Use simple computational aids to support rapid decision making and planning for users on the move. Okay, now talks about the mental models. User develop an understanding of a system through learning about it and using it. Knowledge is sometimes described as mental model, like how to use the system, what are the next steps, what to do with unfamiliar systems or unexpected situation. People make inferences using their mental picture, how to carry out the task. So let's look at information processing. A number of comparisons have been made, including conceptualizing the mind as reservoir, a telephone network, and a digital computer. Our prevalent metaphor from cognitive psychology is the idea that the mind is an information processor. Information is thought to enter and exit the mind through a series of order processing stages, as we can see in this slide: stage 1, stage 2, 3, 4, and so on. Within these stages, various processes are assumed to act upon mental representation. Processes include comparing, matching. Mental representation are assumed to comprise image, mental model, rules, and other form of knowledge. Now let's focus on external cognition, basically concerned with explaining how we interact, like maps, notes, diagrams, and what are the cognitive benefits and what processes are involved, how they extend our cognition, and what computer-based representation can be developed to help even more. Externalizing to reduce memory load means diaries, reminders, calendar, notes, shopping all help. Post files, marked emails, flagging them according to the priority, and external representations like which can remind us that we need to do something, remind us what to do, and remind us what to do something, like sending a card by a certain date. So what is the difference between the traditional model and distributed model or distributed cognition approach? Basically, distributed cognition approach studies the nature of cognitive phenomena across individual artifacts and internal and external representation. Typically, it involves describing a cognitive system which entails interaction among people, the artifacts they use, the environment they are working in, as we can see in this diagram. It differs from external cognition approach in that it provides a more extensive account of cognitive system. So what is involved? The distributed problem solving that takes place, the role of verbal and non-verbal behavior, the various coordinating mechanisms that are used like rules and procedures, communication that takes place as collaborative activity progresses, and how knowledge is shared and accessed. So the key point to take away from this sections are: cognition comprises many processes including thinking, attention, learning, memory, perception, decision making, planning, reading, speaking, and listening. The way an interface is designed can be greatly affect how people can perceive, attend, learn, and remember how to carry out their task. The main benefit of conceptual frameworks and cognitive theories are that they can explain user interaction, inform design, and product user performance. So, it is important to understand users, especially from cognitive aspect. It helps us to understand them in a better way and to learn how we can design interactive products. Also, when we design systems with the user in mind, we know how success stories we can have. Thank you for listening. Okay, folks, let's talk about another domain in HCI social interaction. The subtopic we are going to explore being a social, what does it mean? Face-to-face conversation, remote conversations, telepresence, and co-presence. So, being social, let's get an answers or get more questions to ask ourselves. Are the ways we live and interact with one another changing? Have the conventions, norms, and rules that have been established in face-to-face interaction to maintain social order being able to migrate to social media interaction? In particular, are the established conversational rules and etiquettes whose function it is to let people know how they should behave in social groups also applicable to online behavior? So what happened in social media conversation? Have new conversational mechanism evolved for the various kind of social media? For example, do the people greet each other in the similar way when they are chatting online or Skyping or at a party? Do the people take turns while they are doing chatting? On the phone, the person answered the call will initiate the conversation by saying hello or more formally the name of their company. Nowadays we have caller IDs which enables the other party know who the caller is, so one can adjust his conversation accordingly. In contrast, conversations that take place via online chatting or IM have evolved new conventions. The use of opening and ending greeting when joining and leaving are rarely used. Instead, most people simply start their message with what they want to talk about and then stop when they got an answer or as if the middle of a conversation even. So Skype is a success story, has become a household name and is one of the most popular form of online conversation worldwide. Families who live in different places now regularly keep in touch with each other via Skype for daily, weekly, and special occasion catch-ups. Seeing each other on the screen enables more intimacy and connectedness, allowing, for example, grandparents and grandchildren living in different countries get to know each other better than if they only kept in touch using an audio phone. Moreover, it has been found that the children prefer having a conversation using video conferencing compared with only using an audio phone, as it can be less awkward for them, enjoying the ability to show not tell things to their relatives. 3D virtual worlds are becoming very popular nowadays. For example, Second Life. In 2007, they had over 8 million users. The options of voice over IP, speech bubbles, and chat boxes are provided to enable the user to talk to one another. An ongoing debate is whether the richness of the voice is preferable to the anonymity of the text, which is preferred depends on the context and varies from person to person. Voice over IP works better for small group as it is difficult to distinguish between more than a few voices, while text can be used for much larger group. A study by the Wedleys found in 2009 that voice over IP to be judged to be richer than the text as it enables people to express nuances of meaning more quickly. However, some people preferred using text as it allows them to have more control over how they appear to others while also enabling them to multitask and hold multiple conversations at the same time. Others simply did not like the sound of their voice or their own voice. Introverted people also tend to prefer to type rather than speak. Facebook and Twitter. However, the reliability of tweeted information can be a problem. For example, some people end up obsessively checking and posting sometimes without realizing can start or fuel rumors by adding news that is old or incorrect. Regular tweeters can go into feeding frenzy, constantly adding new tweets about an event as witnessed when an impending flood was announced. While such citizen-led dissemination and retweeting of information from disparate sources is well-intentioned, it can also flood the Twitter streams, making it difficult to know what is old, actual, and hearsay. Now look at italic presence. They are allowing new technologies are allowing to a person to feel as if they were present in the other location, projecting their body movements, action, voice, facial impression, and sometimes you can also superimpose images of other person on a workplace. Now look at this one of the new invention, hypermirror. It allows people to feel as if they were in the same virtual location place, even though in physically different spaces. People in different places are superimposed on the same screen to make them appear as if they were in the same place. So how much realism is needed in telepresence to make it compelling? Telepresence rooms try make the remote people appear to be lifelike by using multiple high definition cameras with eye tracking features, motion detectors, directional microphones. Look at this telepresence room. All the other three are looking like if they were sitting on the other side of the table, so virtually being there. Technologies that enable a co-located group to collaborate more effectively. Those are the co-presence. For example, we have smart boards, surfaces, Kinect. Awareness mechanism is important. It involves knowing who is around, what is happening, and who is talking with whom. Peripherals awareness, like keeping an eye on things happening in the periphery of the vision, overhearing and overseeing, tracking of what others are doing without explicit cues. Okay, let's do an activity. Privacy setting on Facebook. The default interface was that it was accessible by anyone searching the web. This enabled people to find out certain information about Facebook users, namely who their friends were, photos of them, and their music taste. In late 2009 and early 2010, Facebook decided to make even more portions of an user profile public as the default setting. This was their name, city of residence, photo names of users, friends, and causes they have signed on to. The user had to actively choose how to reconfigure all their privacy settings so as to make their personal information private rather than it being set as a default setting for which they could open up portions for other people see. The number of clicks user needed to set the various privacy options on Facebook increased dramatically in between 2004 and 2010 to 50 settings with more than 170 options. The outcome caused an uproar. The interface was considered overly complex, requiring considerable efforts to decide which information to uncheck or check in a user personal profile. Facebook took on board the criticism and simplified this interface again to make it easier for people to set the level of personal information they make public to the rest of the world and what to keep private to their group of friends. So, to sum up this section, the key points are social interaction is central to our everyday life. Social mechanisms have evolved in face-to-face and remote contexts to facilitate conversation, coordination, and awareness. Talk and the way it is managed are integral to coordinating social interaction. Many kinds of computer-mediated communication systems have been developed to enable people to communicate with one another when in physically different locations. Keeping aware of what others are doing and letting others know what you are doing are important aspects of collaboration and socializing. Social media have brought about significant changes in the way people keep in touch with each other. So let us now discuss emotional interaction. In this section, we are going to study expressive interfaces, how the appearance of interface can affect. Then frustrating interfaces, what are they and how to reduce them. And then persuasive in technologies and behavioral change, how they can be designed to change people, attitude and behavior. Then we're going to study models of emotions, how they could be helpful in designing excellent interface, emotional interaction with the device or gadget which we are trying to sell. HCI has traditionally been about designing efficient and effective systems. Now more about how to design interactive system that makes people respond in certain way. I mean, to be happy, to be frustrating, to learn, or to be motivated. Emotional interaction is concerned with how we feel and react when interacting with technologies. So, is the form in front of you, is this form fun to fill in. Wufu is a company specializing in building online forms and have transformed what are usually boring and tedious tasks into being more fun. How do the form above compare with others you have had to fill in? One reason is the minimalism, balance, and aesthetics have been used in the design of the form. As commented by the Wufu creator Kevin Hale, the inspiration for our color palette did come from our competitors. It was really depressing to see so much software designed to remind people they are making databases in a windowless office. And so we immediately knew we wanted to go in the opposite direction. My goal was to design Wofu to feel like something Fisher Price would make. We were determined to make sure Wofu was fun. Now let's do another activity. Try to remember the emotion you went through when buying a big ticket item online. Consider different emotions you've experienced for a common everyday activity. Shopping online for a product such as new phone, washing machine. Firstly, there is a realism of needing or wanting it, and then desire and anticipation of purchasing. This is followed by the joy or frustration of finding out more about that product are available and deciding which to choose from potentially hundreds and even thousands. This entailed matching what is available with what you like or need, or if you can afford it. The thrill of deciding on a purchase may be quickly followed by the shock of how much it costs and disappointment that you can't afford it. The process of having to decide again may be accomplished by annoyance as you can't find one that is as good as your first choice. You think about other options such as seeking advice from an expert in a shopping mall, but you have an aversion to sales assistants and don't trust their advice because you think they have their own interests rather than yours at heart. So you carry on looking, getting more tired and frustrated. When you do make a decision, you experience a sense of relief. You click merrily through the various options, colors, size, warranty, and then dreaded online payment from pop-ups. You type in all your details and press the final payment button. A window then appears saying that your credit card is incorrect. So you type it in again very slowly and you notice you need to type the three numbers security code in again. Finally all is done. You let out a big sigh. But as you walk away from the computer, doubts start to form in your mind. Maybe you should have bought the other one. This roller coaster set of emotion is what many of us experience when shopping online, especially for expensive products where there are myriads of options to choose from and where want to be sure that we make the right choice. So, what are expressive interfaces? A good place to start understanding how emotion affect behavior and how behavior affect emotion is to examine how people express themselves and read each other expression. These include understanding the relationship between facial expression, body language, gesture, tone of voice. For example, when people are happy, they typically smile, laugh, and open their bodies up. When they are angry, they shout, gesticulate, and screw up their faces. A person's expression can trigger emotional responses in others. So when someone smiles, it can cause others to feel good and smile back. So friendly interfaces. Microsoft pioneered friendly interfaces for technophobes at home with Bob software. 3D metaphors based on familiar faces like living rooms. Agents in disguise of pets, bunnies, dogs were included to talk to the user, which makes user feel more at ease and comfortable. Frustrating interfaces. There could be many reasons. An application doesn't work, system don't do what the user wants, when system doesn't provide sufficient information, when error messages pop up that are very vague, when the appearance of an interface is noisy, gimmicky, when a system requires users to carry out too many of the steps for a task. Now look at this error messages. We could have done the application has expectedly quit due to a poor coding in the operating system. So one should avoid giving ambiguous messages in the form whenever there is an error. Look at this Nintendo Pocket Catch. This use of positive rewarding and sulking can be a powerful means of persuasion, given that the children often become emotionally attached to their virtual pets, especially when they start to care for them. So, which is most effective one in the slide? The photo on the left is of a banner placed in downtown. Is an attempt to encourage the general public to take the stairs instead of elevators. The two options on the right are ambient display, designed to do the same thing but using more subtle and interactive methods. Light that twinkles when people approach them, intended to lure them to take the stairs. Clouds of different colored spheres that move up and down depending on how many people have taken the stairs on the elevator for a given period of time. The higher the orange cloud is relative to the gray one, the more people taking the stairs than the elevators. Which representation do you think is the most effective? The banner on the left uses a striking slogan that metaphorically points a finger at you. Some people might find this amusing or challenging. Others, however, are likely to find it offensive and even insulting and ignore it. The extent to which it will change behavior is debatable. In contrast, the ambient display shown in the other images are meant to be much more subtle and aesthetic. They are assumed to work by raising people awareness of a behavior that they normally overlook or try not to think about, to nudge them at the point of decision making. And in the wild study was conducted when they were embedded in a building showed a significant increase in staircasing. Interestingly, the majority of people when asked were not aware of changing their behavior in response to noticing them. This suggests that ambient display can influence at an unconscious level, and they can be used to encourage people to adhere to certain kind of desired behaviors. Where there is a choice, such as washing hands or not eating healthy or unhealthy snacks, taking one route or another through a building, switching off the lights or leaving them on. Now look at the virtual characters. I mean, you might have seen on different kind of virtual characters appearing on the screens. They could be acting as a sales agent, video games, learning companions, or wizards. They provide a persona that is welcoming, has personality, and make user feel involved with them. So what makes a virtual agent believable? Refer to the extent to which user come to believe an agent intention and personality, like appearance for example is important. It's a cartoon like or it's a realistic character resembling the human form. How an agent moves, the behavior, gestures, and refers to object on the screen. Exaggeration of facial expression and gesture to show underlying emotion is also important. Let's study the emotional design model, very important to understand. Ortney model of emotion and behavior is couched in terms of different levels of brain. Lower levels are parts of the brain that are wired to automatically respond to events happening in the physical world, and it is known as visceral level. It responds rapidly, making judgment about what is good or bad, safe or dangerous, or pleasurable. It also triggers emotional response to stimuli like joy, anger, and sadness. If we look at the diagram, at the next level are the brain processes that control our everyday behavior. This is called the behavioral level. At the highest level are the brain processes that contemplate, and this is called the reflective level. Let's study this emotional design model which was developed by Ortney. Ortney model of emotion and behavior is couched in terms of different level of the brain. Look at the lowest level. Lowest level are parts of the brain that pre-wired to automatically respond to events happening in the physical world. Is known as visceral level. It responds rapidly, making judgment about what is good, bad, safe, or dangerous. So claim from the model. Our emotional state changes when how we think. When frightened or angry, we focus narrowly and body responds by tensing muscles and sweating, for example. And that could be more likely to be less tolerant. When happy, we are less focused and body relaxes. more likely to overlook minor problems and be more creative. So implications: should we therefore create products that adapt according to the people different emotional, like when people are feeling angry, should an interface be more attentive and informative than when they are happy? Is Norman right? Designers can get away with more for products intended to be used during leisure time than those designed for serious tasks. So, in a nutshell, there are different ways to design an interactive product, deliberately or inadvertently, to make people respond in certain ways. The extent to which user will learn, buy product, quit a habit, or chat with others depend on how convincing the interface is, how comfortable they feel when using a product, or how much they can trust it. If the interactive product is frustrating to use, annoying, patronizing, user will easily become angry and despondent, and often stop using it. If, on the other hand, the product is pleasurable, enjoyable to use, and makes people feel comfortable and at ease, they will continue to use it, make it a purchase, return to the website, or continue to learn. So the key points from this section to remember, guys, are: emotional aspects of interaction design are concerned with how to facilitate certain states or avoid certain reactions in user experiences. Well-designed interfaces can elicit good feeling in people. Aesthetically pleasing interfaces can be a pleasure to use. Expressive interfaces can provide reassuring feedback to user as well as be informative and fun. Badly designed interfaces often make people frustrated, annoyed, and angry. Technologies can be designed to persuade people to change their behavior or attitude. Virtual agents and robot pets have been developed to make people feel motivated, reassured, and in a good mood. Model of emotion provide framework for thinking about how to conceptualize and take into account emotional and pleasurable aspects of the user experience.